In the previous two classes, we have seen different types of memories which can be used in different types of embedded systems. So in today's class, I will be explaining the selection of memory for different types of embedded systems. Once the software designer's coding is over and the ROM image file is ready, a hardware designer is faced with the questions of what type of memory and what size of each should be used. So as shown in this figure, we have already seen in previous classes, memory can be broadly classified as RAM and ROM. Under the RAM we have DRAM and SRAM, and for ROM we have EEPROM, PROM and masked ROM. Other than these, we have also seen different types of memories, but broadly these are the two main divisions, and if we combine both, we will come up with the hybrid type of memory, which can be divided into non-volatile RAM, flash and E2PROM. Okay, now these are the different classification of memory which can be used in different types of embedded systems depending upon their applications. Right, now let me go through in detail how the memory selection happens. Embedded systems require program memory for holding the control algorithms for embedded OS and the application designed to run on top of it, data memory for holding variable and temporary data during task execution, memory for holding non-volatile data like configuration data, lookup tables, etc., which are modifiable by the application. The memory requirement for an embedded system in terms of RAM or ROM, it can be E2PROM, flash or NVRAM, is mainly dependent on the type of embedded system and the application for which it is designed. Lot of factors need to be considered when selecting the type and size of the memory for embedded system. So let me quickly show you the difference in terms of different variables such as volatility, erase size, cost and speed. So across the rows I have mentioned SRAM, DRAM, E2PROM, flash and cache memory. Still many types of memories are there, but these are the very important memories which are used in most of the embedded systems. If you see for the RAM under the heading volatile, yes, it is volatile. Once power goes, it will lose the data. Even the DRAM is volatile, whereas EEPROM is non-volatile, and even the flash is also non-volatile. Cache memory, it can be changed according to the OS. Under the heading RAM, if I come to the erase size, it happens in byte. For DRAM also it is byte. For E2PROM it is byte, whereas flash gets erased data in terms of sectors, and it is not applicable for the cache. Cost per byte, it is very expensive, as in the previous class, if people have seen, madam has already explained. To store a single bit of information in static RAM, we require 6 transistors. As the number of transistors required to store a single bit of information is more, obviously cost is more. Whereas DRAM, which is made up of a single transistor and a capacitor, its cost is moderate. EEPROM, E2PROM is also expensive. Flash is moderate. Cache memory is very expensive because it will be on chip. It's like a register set. If you see the speed of execution, SRAM is fast and cache memory is the fastest memory because it's on chip memory. As close to the processor CPU core, obviously its speed of execution will be more. As I told, cache memory is on chip, it's like a set of registers. But depending upon the complications handled by the embedded system, we do have different levels of cache memory as level 1, L1 cache, L2 cache and so on. For DRAM, the speed is moderate. E2PROM, it is very fast to read, but it's slow to read and write. Erase and write. For Flash, once again, it's very fast to read but slow to write the content. Okay, now we'll go with the next part, right? Memory selection for embedded system. Once again, we are continuing with the same discussion. For example, if the embedded system is designed using system on chip or microcontroller with on chip RAM and ROM, such as flash memory, depending on the application need, the on chip memory may be sufficient for designing the total system. If we have bought some system on chip or a microcontroller with the on chip memory, and if your application if that memory is sufficient, then no need of buying additional memory. Now let me take an example of an electronic toy. I will take electronic toy example, electronic telephone used by most of the small kids. Here you can see very limited applications we will be having. There are few keys on this. Here also we have, and here also we have limited amount of keys. Now obviously all of you know that we are not going to use it to connect to some other people and talk in real time. It is for playing purpose. So there are few keys which the kids can press and they can hear the different sounds. If you consider a still complicated telephone, a toy telephone, then some toy telephones, if you ask some questions, it will reply back. So maximum some 3 to 4 tasks it can perform. As the complexity of such applications are very less, data memory requirement are minimum, we can think of a microcontroller with a few bytes of internal RAM, a few bytes of or kilobytes of flash memory, and a few bytes of EEPROM for designing the system. Hence there is no need of external memory at all. A simple PIC microcontroller device with which satisfies the IO and memory requirements can be used in this case. Next, if the embedded design is based on an RTOS, the RTOS requires certain amount of RAM for its execution and RAM for storing the RTOS image. Binary code for RTOS kernel stored in a non-volatile memory like flash. During a boot up of the device, RTOS files are copied from the storage memory, that is from ROM. Then it will be loaded into the RAM for execution. A smartphone with the Windows mobile operating system is a typical example for embedded system device with OS. Now let me consider a real-time example and I will show you its different features and how the hardware and software will be selected for that. Now I have selected here, I think most of you have seen it. I know many students are very much crazy about the smartphones. That's why I selected this particular phone, that is Apple iPhone X. Alright, so let me go through few of its features with respect to camera. You can see here it has dual camera, main camera with 12 megapixels, quad LED. Alright, and video feature also you can see it is more compatible with professional handycam. Then we have a selfie camera with 7 megapixels, feature HDR, that is high definition recording is possible even using selfie camera. Alright, 1080p at 30 frames per second is the recording capacity. Then sound loudspeakers are present. Communication, you can see wireless LAN is there, right? Wireless LAN, we have Wi-Fi 802.11, Bluetooth 5.0, GPS is present. NFC stands for near field communication, that is also present. Radio is not present, USB is there. Some additional features are there, such as we have Face ID, accelerometer, gyro, proximity sensor, Siri natural language commands and detection. I hope all of you know what is a Siri. It is an application which comes with Apple, which uses artificial intelligence and neural networks to receive the commands, voice commands from the user and try to perform the operations given by the user. Now, if you compare these all features or the functions performed by the phone with the simple toy phone which I considered in the previous example, there is a drastic change. In the previous example, we have used simple 8-bit PIC microcontroller and very limited amount of memory. Now, do you think is it possible to use the same controller and the same amount of memory and hardware to execute all these functions? Obviously not. It's not possible. You cannot think also, right? Now, to handle all these, obviously we require a very powerful hardware. You can see here we have a hexa core which is running at 2.39 gigahertz CPU, and Apple graphical processing unit GPU is also there. OS 11.1.1, it can be upgradable to iOS 13.4. Now, since we have such a sophisticated hardware and the OS, obviously the memory requirement is also more. Here there are two variants of Apple iPhone X. One comes with 64 GB of RAM and 3 GB of RAM. One more comes with 256 GB of RAM and 3 GB of RAM. Obviously, these two variants have their own cost constraint. You can see for 64 GB, the cost is around 70,000. For 256 GB, it is around 72,000. Alright, I hope the two examples are clear. In the first example, which is a toy telephone, in the second example, the most sophisticated smartphone which is available in the market. Obviously, the cost of the toy telephone, it will be in terms of 1,000, 1 or 2,000 maximum. But if you compare the cost of this sophisticated iPhone X, the cost is 70,000, 70 to 72,000. Right, as the application changes, obviously the memory requirement changes. Hence, we have to properly decide what type of memory that suits our application. There are two parameters for representing a memory: the size of the memory chip, memory density expressed in terms of number of memory bytes per chip. Memory chips come in standard sizes as 512 bytes, 1 KB, 2 KB, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, and so on. For example, for a processor or controller with 16-bit address, I hope all of you remember from the concept of 8086, it is the size of the address bus which decides how much of memory it can access. In case of 8086, we were having address bus of 20 bits. That's why it was able to access 2 raised to 20, that is 1 megabyte of memory. Now in this case, for example, a processor controller with 16 bit of address bus, the maximum number of memory location that it can address is 2 raised to 16, that is 65,536 bytes, or nothing but 64 kilobytes of memory. The entire memory range supported by the processor or controller may not be available to the memory chip alone. It may be shared between IO and other ICs and other memory devices. So you cannot dedicate all the 16 bits completely for memory only. Then the most important thing, one more important thing, is the word size of the memory. The number of memory bits that can be read or written together at a time. The word size can be in terms of 4 bits, 8 bits, 12, 16, 24, 32, 64, 128, and so on. The ARM microprocessor or the controller CPU core what we are studying is of 32 bits. The word size supported by the memory chip must match with the data bus width of the processor and the controller. This is the obvious statement. If it does not match, then it's not possible to transfer the data. Next, so one more type of memory which most of the embedded system use is the flash memory. It is the popular choice for RAM in embedded applications. It is a powerful and cost-effective solid-state storage technology for mobile electronic devices and other consumer applications. Usually flash comes in two variants, NAND flash and NOR flash. It has its own advantages and disadvantages. It is a good practice to use combination of both NOR and NAND memory for storage memory requirements. NAND flash does not support execute in place. In short, we will call it as XIP. And if NAND flash is used for storing program code, a DRAM can be used for copying and executing the program code. NOR flash supports XIP and it can be used as a memory for bootloader or for storing the complete program code. Next, we'll see with respect to EEPROM. EEPROM data storage memory is available as either serial interface or parallel interface. If the processor or controller of the device supports serial interface, the amount of data to write and read is less. It is better to have serial EEPROM chip. The memory capacity of the serial EEPROM is usually expressed in bits or kilobits. 512, 1K, 2K, 4K, etc. are example of serial EEPROM memory representations. Right? For embedded systems with low power requirements, we should go for low power memory devices. There will be certain embedded applications which has to work in high temperature and high humid areas. Then we cannot choose a normal memory chips. We have to go for industrial grade memory chip in place of common grade chip. Or else if you use common grade chips, then obviously they cannot withhold that high temperature humidity. They will stop working and the whole application will fail. Right? So in this today's class, we have seen how to select a particular memory for application and in what amount. Right? This will be most of the time will be done by hardware engineer. There has to be a proper tandem between the software engineer and the hardware engineer. Then only a beautiful embedded application can be developed. In the next class, we will be discussing about the sensors and the actuators which are being used for the development of embedded application. Till then, thank you.